Yeah, I sometimes wonder whatever happened to all the people who asked me for directions over the years. Oh, hello! Good day. Welcome once again to the Library of Horror Hotel. All you mask collectors and monster lovers, it's time for another episode of Dr. Lady's Creepy Cheapies. I'm Oscar the Grouch, and today, today's mask isn't really cheap exactly, because it's, as of the taping of this episode, it was a neighborhood of 60 to 70 bucks, which is not exactly cheap, but I'm recommending it anyway because of extreme coolness. It's this youngster, conveniently located just off camera, the Warlock. That's right, the Warlock. Now, there have been a number of masks called Warlock. Why is this one noteworthy? Well, a lot of companies, when they release old masks for a second time, when they reissue them, they do it with some fanfare, some hoopla, you know. I should have said I was Bert Schnick. That's who I am today. They release it with like a special edition for collectors, and they'll call it like the retro edition or something like that, collector's edition. But once in a while, the folks at Zagoni Studios will slip something into their lineup without even telling us, and you could easily miss it. And this particular Warlock showed up in 2018, but before that he showed up back in the 1980s, and he is in fact the second sculpture, the second version of the mask that was known as Warlock, which was first introduced in the late 70s from Zagoni back in the day when they were called Be Something Studios. And the Be Something Warlock started out with a different face that had plastic eyes stuck in, and then was changed to this edition. Now, the differences between the 2018 version, which you see here, and the version from the 80s are as follows. The one back in the 80s was blue, not like sad and lonely, but like the color blue. He had a blue complexion, blue skin, and he had a much more deluxe, a very fancy hood made of a very high quality plush fabric that would fasten beneath the chin with some Velcro type of stuff, I do believe. Yeah. And this version, as you can see, is a standard Caucasian flesh color, and his hood is just black fabric. It's pretty nice quality. There's nothing wrong with it. It just isn't as deluxe and plush and fancy as the fabric from back in the 80s. And today's hooded masks made by all the manufacturers, well, they tend to have, you know, lighter stuff. Not lighter like not as black. Lighter as in not as heavy and not as plush and not as deluxe. Most often today they have more ordinary fabric for the hoods. But this guy was sculpted by the legendary Bill Eastrom back in the day, and was pretty well known as far as haunted houses. Everybody loved the old Warlock mask. My goodness, he's probably one of my favorite non-movie masks. I've been looking at him so long, he looks like an old friend. You, Carl. Yeah. But he's probably one of the more popular non-movie characters, up there with Fang Face and Hanging I Do and some of the other great Be Something / Zagoni masks. And now the latex just comes about to here, okay? So there's no latex in the back, there's just the fabric hood, but there is latex about to there. See that point? That's how far the latex goes back, and then there's also a elastic strap on the inside to hold the rubber part in face and on your face. And when you're wearing it and looking out of it, look out. When you look out of these slits above his creepy shiny eyeballs, which are green and kind of oily looking and very spooky and almost cross-eyed. He's a little bit cross-eyed, but not enough to make him look silly, goofy cross-eyed, like there'd be a bug on his nose. Not quite that cross-eyed, more like insane, slightly unfocused kind of cross-eyed, and I think it works. Now, another nice thing about the Warlock mask is, if you wanted to use it as a witch instead of a warlock, I just happen to have a piece of hair here from just a cheap costume wig, okay? White hair from a costume wig. Look at this. If you took some white hair and just sort of placed it on the temples of the mask and glued it on there, look how cool that would look as far as looking like a witch. You see, you could just take some white and put, I would ideally cut this in half and put half on either temple and let that hang down there, and it would look like a witch. It would look a lot like the witch from Snow White, as a matter of fact, or a witch from a version of Snow White. So you could use it as a female character, especially if you added a little piece of hair here and there. Or I guess if you wanted to make it absolutely clear that it's definitely a male character, I guess you could give him a mustache the same way, or a goatee, or a beard of some sort. And you know, when I do that, all of a sudden he reminds me of Troll 2, and I never thought of that before, and I just insulted him, and I'm very sorry. I apologize for that, Mr. Warlock. But anyway, great mask from Zagoni Studios, made in the USA. Not too many things still are these days. And you could get one from the Zagoni website, or if they've already taken it down by now, check on Amazon and the various mask dealers and see if you can get one in time for next Halloween, because it's a really cool, scary mask, and just nice to have in the collection. And remember, kids, if you're self-employed, when they catch you talking to yourself, you can write it off as having been conducting a staff meeting.